All right, Cory, I've got a few questions for
Sure.
you. I know you've got this new solution for these states and cities where wholesaling, we hear, is not allowed anymore because of maybe a recent law that was passed. I'm curious, do you have like a master list or off the top of your head where some of those locations are?
Sure. So South Carolina being the first one that really passed a hard and fast law stating that wholesaling without a license is going to be illegal if you don't own the property as well. So that's pretty interesting marketing that has a change to it for South Carolina. It's got teeth in it, meaning that if you violate it, you can really have some potential jail time. And also Oregon right now is another one that you can actually have a felony against you if you continue to wholesale without actually doing it the correct way, which is according to the law. They want you basically to be licensed. And I also see the writing on the wall where people are going to have to have the property in their name, basically own the property to be able to market it to the public. Here in Oklahoma is another example, David, where I live, and they had some changes here where you have to be licensed, and they basically say you can't you can't market publicly a property that you don't own. So there's some kind of gray between like assignment and double close. If you double close, you technically are on the deed for 5 minutes, so you do sell a property that you own, versus assigning it. You don't own the property, you're just assigning it to another buyer. You're basically assigning a contract, not necessarily a house. There's all of those kind of different discussions that are taking place right now. But the writing on the wall I see with regulations is you are going to need to own the property in order to market it. And most of these people, whether it's a contract for assigning the contract or a piece of property, they don't own it and they're marketing it. So even on the double close, you're still not owning that property before you market it to find your end buyer. And so we're a proponent of wholesaling. So I want to make sure I'm very clear on that too, David. We have a pretty good size wholesaling company. We do over 100 deals a year. We've closed in over 35 different states. And so I'm a proponent for wholesaling, and I just see the writing on the wall that you have to have some more tools in your tool belt than you had before in order to keep up with some of these regulations if you don't want to lose a lot of money in your wholesaling operation.
I think that too, something that I like to think about, if you're able, and when I started, I wasn't able to do this because I started with no experience at all. It was just getting my first deal. But as you do this, you're starting to play with some big numbers of cash. A lot of wholesalers are and they should be stacking some cash up so that you can take a deal down, because I think you do have better leverage and have more power to sell for a better price when you take it all the way down. There's deals that we do that with now. It's like, I know I could wholesale this and make a decent assignment fee, but I could also just take it down, get it on the market, and make an even bigger fee. So I think that there's also just strategically analyzing what is a better option for me. Is it better to take it all the way down and do it versus not? Another thing I was thinking about too, are there, not to get too in the weeds on this, are there states that ownership is by contract and it wouldn't necessarily make a difference if you take it down or market it, or not take it down and market it?
The language that's being used, Ryan, you bring up some good points. The language that's being used is an interest in a property. And as we know, from wholesaling, whenever you, and this is the argument too, right? I don't own the house. I'm not wholesaling, or I'm not assigning a house. I'm assigning a contract. I have an equitable interest. You've heard this term thrown around many times. And that's true. You have an equitable interest in a property. Well, these regulators, they start to notice that language being used, and they're kind of using it against us. So they don't want you to have even interest in the property and being able to market it publicly.
I've got the South Carolina bill here, actually. It says wholesaling means having a contractual interest in purchasing residential real estate from a property owner, then marketing the property for sale to a different buyer prior to taking legal ownership. Okay, so it also says wholesaling does not refer to the assigning or offering to assign a contractual right to purchase a residential real estate. So it seems like in South Carolina, all they're doing is they're actually protecting wholesaling, but they're preventing people from lying about advertising the property. It is still okay to say that I'm going to assign this contract to somebody.
Yeah, if you're they put that in there. If you continue reading the rest of that that bill that you're reading, that law, basically it states in there that you can assign a property still, like to your brother or sister, maybe one other family member, but you can't profit from that property. So that they're trying to basically say you can still assign it, but you can't make money and profit from that deal. So they cover it both ways.
Okay. So why do you think that Oklahoma and South Carolina, wholesaling has been around a long time. If you go and you read, Rich Dad, Poor Dad, the book that we've all read that got us all excited about real estate, right, he talks about wholesaling in there, right? He doesn't use the word wholesaling, but he says, well, I had this apartment complex under contract and, I could have cash flowed it for $20,000, per year, but instead I just assigned the ability to close on it to someone else and made $600,000 that day. And so it's really, really an old strategy. Why do you think some of these regulations are coming about now?
Well, we've made actually over $300,000 on an assignment in California. And so these six-figure assignment deals do happen. They're probably few and far between now. But the big reason right now is there is a lot. So I always look at wholesaling in some degree as the pawn shop of real estate. I've been kind of criticized by saying that, but if I go into a pawn shop with a gold watch and I paid 10 grand for my Rolex watch, do I expect to get 10 grand out of it? No, the very fact that I went into the pawn shop, I already know that I'm probably going to get maybe $2,500, $4,000 for that watch, because I'm entering into a situation where I'm talking to someone that's likely going to pay me cash. They're going to buy it as is. They're not going to really have any formalized quote inspections that they have to go through. And they're taking risk, right? It's also liquidation strategy to the marketplace. I feel like wholesalers provide a great opportunity for liquidation to the marketplace. And, there is a need. I believe there is a big need for wholesaling. However, there is a lot of people that take advantage of someone. Let's say the little old lady that's 75 or 80 years old, will paint the kind of worst picture. She has a property worth $200,000 and you go and negotiate with her and she ends up taking $30,000 for that property. And then you turn around and you assign that property for $100,000 and you make $70,000 off the poor lady that's 75 or 80 years old. And I'm telling you, this is the example that the Board of Real Estate, the National Association of Real Estate Association, what they're looking at is kind of these worst examples, and they're calling wholesalers in the same category as predatory. And they would actually be correct with some wholesalers. But the challenge is, David, and you know this, and this is one of the big things that you've contributed and made an impact into this world on DealMachine is there's great wholesalers. There's ones that actually know how to treat people. They have values in their company. And just like a car business, if you go down to someone and trying to buy a car and you get this kind of sleazy guy that, is going to take advantage of you and lie to you and all this other stuff. Or you go to a really good car dealership and they treat you right. They give you an extra warranty. They go above and beyond. You have both sides, and you're always going to have the ones that do things the right way and the ones that do things the wrong way. And as of right now, NAR is really looking at the ones that are doing things wrong, and they're trying to make an example of all wholesalers are that way. All wholesalers, see, you might as well just brought it to us as a real estate association so we could have made the commission. You could have made more money in their eyes. That's what they're thinking. You could have made more money. And then, we'll take care of you. We have these guidelines that you have to abide by, et cetera. The challenge with that is that there's a lot of people that contact us, David. They call us whenever they could have called a real estate agent. They had the opportunity to call a real estate agent, but they didn't. Or they have their own reasons why they would never use a real estate. We've got recordings of people that say, one of the questions that we ask our representatives ask the clients that call us, the home sellers, is why didn't you, this sounds like a great house. David, why didn't you call a real estate agent? And you know what they say? I don't want to deal with the real estate agent. I had a bad experience dealing with a real estate agent. I don't want people tromping through my house. I feel there's a bunch of reasons of why that these home sellers don't want to work with real estate agents. And it's really difficult to get that message across in a positive way, in a way that's like, hey, it's not me saying I don't want to work with the real estate agent. It's the homeowner says they don't want to work. But guess what? They still need to sell their property. And then they have urgency involved with it, David. They have reasons of why they want to sell that typically just don't associate with the typical understanding that a real estate agent is kind of built on, which is I want to sell the property for as high as I can, and I want to make a commission, from doing that. They don't like to get into kind of these other creative situations where the homeowner needs these different certain little things to be able to sell the property. Not the traditional way of agents think.
Right.
Hey guys, if you know you want to quit your job in the next 3 months, make sure you're subscribed to this podcast because we've got some incredible frameworks with step-by-step instruction that you're not going to want to miss. Also, leave us a rating and review to let us know your favorite parts and why you want to get financial freedom.
So this is a good transition. You kind of broke down how wholesalers, 3 types of properties wholesalers operate. And I wanted to read through those and then ask you, how do you know if you're doing a good job, buying this type of property at this type of discount? So you got pretty houses, which need cosmetic light rehab, 60 to 70% of the full market price. Yucky houses, which is medium rehab, 50 to 60% of the full market price. And then scary houses, which need, major repair, full gut, maybe they had fire damage, and they might buy that at 25 to 50% of the market. So it's pretty easy for me to see how the yucky and the scary houses, they actually do take, a big discount for that because they're having to risk their capital to fix that property up, right? Or somebody's going to have to, right? So that's why there's such a big discount there. But let's say it's like a pretty house, there's maybe less risk. Why or how do you know if it's okay to take something like that, for 60% or 70% of the market price?
So on pretty houses for, if I ask someone that, hey, would you say your house is a pretty house, doesn't need a whole lot of work, just maybe a little bit of cosmetic, maybe a little paint. A yucky house, which, like you said, needs a little bit more work, maybe have some holes in the walls, maybe needs, maybe has a little hole in the roof somewhere, something a little bit more involved. Or scary, which is like, don't recommend me walking in or something's going to fall in on me or been in fire damage. And people tend to, say, well, my house is pretty, even when it's scary. Right? And so what we tend to do is we really look at, what are some of these kind of big items that cost the most amount of money, right? Which is a roof. A roof costs a lot of money. The central heat and air costs a lot of money, whether even there or not, or if it's working or not. The foundation is another big issue. People don't tend to want to buy homes with foundation issues. So, we look at that particular issue. Plumbing, big issues with plumbing. If there's anything there, or if the house has ever been in a fire, any electric stuff that's, how old the electric is. So we look at some of these kind of big items and we determine right off the bat from that, like, are those things all in good shape? Also, the other thing is the year of the house. Typically homes that are like built in 2000 or above, just in general, are usually going to be in that kind of like yucky to pretty category. Typically, not always, but typically, it's kind of like finding a used car that's a 2000 or above car, right? It has some miles on stuff, but usually doesn't mean like, it's a 1962 car or a 1972 car, right? Where you feel like wow, this thing's had a lot more, wear and tear on it. I have a lot more things to be considered about, right? So the year of the house is a big one, that we consider. Also those other items like the hot water tank, the central heat and air, and the roof. Those are big items that we also want to look at because those are going to cost a lot of money for capital expenditure for rehab. But when we're looking at each one of these properties for our company takedown funding to be able to help these wholesalers, whether you're new or old to the game, to be able to actually take these properties down, because maybe you don't have $300,000 in your bank account and you're not liquid. You can't go find somebody to get that, or maybe you've tapped out completely, but you need that money to be able to take that deal down because it's a great deal. You've negotiated on it. You spent the time. You've wrapped it up. It's a great deal, but you just can't market it and you don't have a way, or maybe you're going to lose it if you don't take it down. We found a way to be able to individually underwrite those deals. And we want to be able to do it in a way that's kind of first of its kind, that you don't actually have to put any money in besides like a $300 home inspection. That's it. Like a lot of these other companies out there, they charge 10, 20, 30% down or more, depending on situations with the house or your credit or whatever it is, whether it's a hard money loan or versus like a private lending loan, whether it's going to go off your credit or what. We are coming out of the first of its kind with takedown funding to allow people to be able to take that deal down because we individually underwrite those deals. And so, David, we know if it's going to be a pretty house or a yucky house or a scary house, because this is what a part of one of our businesses is wholesaling. And collectively with the team that we have, we got over 50 years of experience from wholesaling in that market.
Got it. So basically, if I'm trying to wholesale in South Carolina, I could do everything the same way, but just like use your company to take it down.
Yes. And at the end of the day, we're your partners. We're your strategic partners too. I'm not going to sit here and tell you that it's going to be cheap. We're not a cheap date, but guess what? You can get the deal done. And you may not need us, but if you do need us, we're going to be strategic partners with you. It's going to typically be just a little under 50-50 of what your profit's going to be. But we also want to take part in working this deal with you. We want to get you the highest amount possible for this property. And guess what? We know where those retail buyers live, or where we know where those high buyers live is usually off the MLS. If you're able to take that deal down and now you have an agent, right, that represents that deal to be able to get it up on the MLS for you, that's going to get you typically a higher offer, because those buyers that are coming off the MLS are not typically the ones that are living off of like cash buyers or necessarily the ones that are the fiction flippers or the rehabbers. There are some on there, but they're usually like the HDTV type folks that are on there that are not necessarily looking for those huge 70% minus repairs kind of formula that we normally hear about in wholesaling. They are looking for a different element of that property. It may be where the location is, maybe the school. So where we're finding is that if you can take a deal down, yeah, you may lose some money to be able to, partner with us on doing the deal. However, you have to think about how much more that you're going to potentially sell the property for, and you'll have full control over it, right? How many times do we hear it's so frustrating, David, that I can't get in, I have to schedule with the tenant, I have to schedule with the owner, imagine just being able to take a deal down, changing the locks, putting a code on it, and now you have full control, right? You can show it at 12 o'clock at night or 8 o'clock in the morning. You can show it 50 times or 4 times. So you have a lot more control to be able to do it.
Yeah, but what happens if it doesn't sell?
Yeah, so we have another situation that we're also your strategic partner, and we are going to underwrite that deal if we believe that it works for us. And the way that we believe it's going to work for us is there's got to be enough money there for you to turn around and profit. And we're going to have that conversation with you. It is individual for each one of the properties. But to answer your question, we're going to give you a full 90 business days. Okay. If you haven't been able to get rid of that deal in full 90 business days, David, and we're the ones putting up the money for it, guess what? We don't want to lose money, and you don't want us necessarily to lose money, right? And so we're going to take that deal back, and we're going to actually end up liquidating it ourselves. And then at that point, our agreement's off after 90 days.
Okay, cool. So if you're like a beginner, am I able to send deals to you to see if they're good deals?
Yes.
Like, do you want people to do that?
Yes, we do. We actually want you to just send them to our application line at takedownfunding.com. It says apply for funds. We are working on a little video, David, that's kind of an instructional video that says before you apply, please watch this quick video because we don't want 90% LTV type deals. It's not really that's not a deal, and we all know that. So we want you to have some education on what we're kind of looking for, and also what we think is going to be a partner for our success.
Okay, got it. So you would be looking for 60 to 70% of the value type deals max, it sounds like. So at what stage, if I'm a beginner, would I be asking you if it's a good deal? Like if I get a call back from a mailer, or if I've actually gone to the property and gotten it under contract? At what stage is good to engage with you guys to answer that question?
That's a great question. And so we're working on kind of we don't want to necessarily delve into the full educational aspect of it, but we do want to create some kind of watch this video before you submit, kind of that filter that allows you not, so you don't waste time. Like you say, you don't want to spend time and waste time. So we want to make sure that you're not submitting an 80 cent on the dollar deal, 90 cent on the dollar deal. If it's kind of on the fence and you think, okay, this could be on the fence, we're fine with you going ahead and submitting it. We can underwrite it pretty quick and let you know pretty quick if we think the deal is going to work or not. And we actually have alternative ways. So if the deal doesn't completely fund out 100%, which is what we want to offer the marketplace, David, because it's the first of its kind. Imagine the wholesalers that spend all this money. They might spend $5,000, $10,000. Heck, wholesalers sometimes spend $20,000 or more a month on marketing. And then they get the deal, and now someone's telling them that, hey, oh, by the way, now that to wholesale the deal, especially in South Carolina, you have to take down the property. Well, if you don't have the funds available, or maybe you tap down your credit line, what do? You spend all this time negotiating, you have a great deal. You don't want to let that go to the wayside. So we actually have other ways that allows you to do that deal, even if it's not 100%. So what's that look like? Typically we want to just let you come in at 100%, but if it doesn't work, we may say, well, we will go ahead and still do the deal, but maybe you have to put a little skin in the game. Maybe it's going to cost you $10,000 for an option, or $5,000 for an option, or whatever it is. We still find a way to try to make that deal work if we think there's a potential for you to turn around and profit.
Awesome. Well, it seems like very timely of you to create this. What's the best way to go find and check that out? Is it takedownfunding.com?
You got it. Takedownfunding.com, just how it sounds. Easy to remember. And I do believe that even though South Carolina is kind of leading that way, Oklahoma, or Oregon, Washington's coming into play, and other places, Nebraska, some other states are looking at this. I think there's a term called copy legislation. And remember, the deal in South Carolina took from like January to June to get that thing ran all the way through, maybe even a little bit earlier. It only took like 4 or 5 months for them to run that thing all the way through. And right now, with NAR getting hit with this big lawsuit over $400 million they got hit with, they don't want to lose any more fees, right? So they want more people to be able to become agents. So they collect those commissions, which is understandable, right? But they're also kind of throwing all the wholesalers into this bunch of like bad wholesaler situation. We don't want that. We actually want to work with agents. We believe with takedown funding especially, and with wholesaling in general, is that there could be co-opetition instead of competition. Typically, it's real estate agent versus wholesaler, David. I hate that. I can't stand that, because both people have this zero-sum mentality, and it never works. It never works long-term. You have to look long-term, working with each other. We can bring you deals that are great deals that you can make commission off of. You can bring us deals that we can buy, and we can make you commission. And so we all need to think about ways to work together instead of having this zero-sum mentality.
Love it.
Yep.
Well, Takedown Funding is the website you can go to if you guys are in one of these states where you're not sure if you can wholesale. And again, South Carolina is one of those states, potentially. I don't know. I haven't seen the profit part that you mentioned, Cory. I'll have to go back and read the rule. But it seemed like it was protecting wholesaling to me. So definitely just, taking that as an action item for me to read through. And I really appreciate you being on, Cory. Thank you so much.
No problem. We spent about with two attorneys that closed over 1,000 real estate transactions and with wholesalers, and let us know about that assignment issue. So, I'm speaking about not from me as a legal standpoint, but talking to attorneys, and just seeking counsel really on this, David. It's a new thing, and we just think that regulations are coming in hard and heavy, and you just got to be prepared for it.
It's confusing because at the same time, one of my clients uses Harry Marsh law in South Carolina and continues to close wholesale deals. So it definitely is confusing. And I think even some attorneys are confused. I don't know. It's not clear exactly. So definitely need to do some research on that myself. And if you're in the state, would definitely research that as well. And either way, though, it sounds like you've created a great solution with takedown funding to be able to wholesale and help dispo that deal. And if you're a beginner, could even give feedback early in the process on if it's a good deal or not. And so for those reasons, I'm very excited about what you talked about today.
And we are also expanding right now, David. We're in South Carolina, we're in Georgia, we're in Tennessee, we're in North Carolina right now, and we're in Florida. And so we're expanding pretty quickly. So if you're in any of those states, we definitely would love to have a conversation with you. And as we continue to grow this baby, the little baby, as we continue to watch the baby grow, we believe that it is going to be a large company and we'll be able to fund in all the states in the United States.
Excellent. Well, thank you so much, man. We'll see you next time.
All right. See you guys.
Thanks for listening to the DealMachine Real Estate Investing Podcast. Please leave us a review and follow along wherever you're listening to your podcast.